Hi chess friends, this is King's Executor and I'm back to cover round 6 of the Tata Steel Tournament 2013 in Wijk Rnd6. And what a decisive round this has been again. Well, we had only several draws and several decisive games. Nakamura drawed with Lamy in the Carlsen. Hari Krishna versus Anand was drawn, although it was a kinda unimbalanced game where black had pawns for the exchange. Aronian played a superb endgame against Peter Leko, where Aronian had bishop and knight with the white pieces against the bishop pair in the endgame, and he managed to outplay Peter Leko. Anish Giri lost to Yifan Hao. Hao managed to gain the exchange in the middle game, and she was left with only minutes in the end game. This is why Anish Giri kept on playing, and she could win eventually due to the time increment they have with each move. And the game took 85 moves. Luc van Wely won convincingly against Hao Wang. He forced Wang to resign with a final tactical shot out of a superior position. But my game of the day is Magnus Carlsen against Ivan Sokolov. Well, this time Carlsen and his opponent played a more standard opening at Grandmaster level, and now we see the contours of the Spanish game. And in this position, Carlsen castled. b5 by Sokolov and bishop b3, bishop b7, d3, bishop c5. Of course, there are other moves like bishop e7, which is more modest. Bishop c5 is the most active square for the bishop, but of course the bishop is a little bit more vulnerable there. a4 by Carlsen. Castles by Sokolov and bishop g5, forcing a concession on the king side with h6, well, provoking at least. Bishop drops back and d6. c3, typical preamble to d4, and that keeps the knight out of the game, at least in the center. So there are no exchanges available to black in this position yet. Queen e7, keeping in touch with the knight on f6, so white cannot double the pawns. Knight a3. This is a funny looking move because well, after knight a5, the bishop on b3 is attacked, and you don't want to give away your bishop pair for nothing here. The bishop is dropped back, and the funny thing about this knight a3 maneuver is that after b4, the knight moves back to b1. So what did this knight a3 to b1 back and fourth moving really achieve for white? Well, one point is that this knight is offside, and this pawn was provoked to move forward, and you don't know what this bishop really has to do, because maybe it has to watch over that pawn, and this is a little bit unclear, but white is trying to provoke concessions out of black's position. G5 and knight H5. Knight to B2, and now you see, if knight to B2 would have been played right away, this knight would still sit on C6. So these are little finesses at grandmaster level, which I cannot get too deeply into the explanation of this, but as I said, it's probably forcing concessions out of white, and now you see the knight here is offside. And let's see if the knight would have moved back. Well, then we have this tactical shot here, and if the pawn takes, queen takes simply, and in this position, if the knight took here, well, we don't take on G3. Now we do this Zwischenzug, attacking this queen, so this knight has to be taken, and white won a pawn for nothing here. So really, I guess this funny move and back and 2b2 is just to have this offside knight here. Bishop a7 was played, and this looks like a pawn sacrifice. b4 is unprotected now, and if we take this pawn, which is not the game continuation, but if we take this pawn, then takes, and now knight to c6, and after provoking b5, takes, and knight to b4. Now these pawns are isolated and doubled, and black is really pointing the finger at c2 and d3, and you cannot push your bishop back here because of this tactical move, and the exchange is gained, and a pawn as well. So in this position, I guess knight c4 is a move, and yeah. Okay, so bishop a7 was the move, and Carlsen didn't take the pawn. He played simply rook to e1. This prepares, of course, d4, and after exchanges with the pawns, e4 to e5. And as well, the knight is free to move to f1 and get to e3 here. Takes, this is the game continuation. The knight took the bishop, h takes g. Of course, the f pawn is pinned. Queen to f6, queen to e2. Please note that this queen is watching over this a6 pawn, Just a little feature in this position. So this bishop is not that free. Of course, at the moment there's this rook and tactical possibilities here if the queen took this, but we'll see later. Rook f to b8. Rook a to b1, and after bishop c6, knight to f1, continuing the centralization of the knight, takes, and rook to b8. So black is simplifying down the position, and black hopes to get his bishop pair going. Of course, in order to do that, the pawns have to be eliminated and exchanged so that the bishops have a nice game. The rook was taken by Carlsen and Sokolov recaptured, of course, and after knight to e3, well, this knight really has beautiful squares in the center. Bishop a7. And now Carlsen played d4. Well, still this bishop is not free to go where it wants, because this pawn is important to be kept. So this pawn is not passed. So g4 and knight to d4, a Zwischenzug again. Of course, the knight on f3 is immune due to takes with check. The queen retreated here, and knight to h4. And now you see, this is really the question. Which pieces are better? The bishop pair or this lions in the center? c6 to kick the knight, and h5 to really make a brick wall to the queen here. But knight to h5 covering d4. Of course, h5 was needed to be played because the pawn here was attacked twice, and after covering it, d4 is covered in white's camp. So queen back to f6, and now it's a question of activity. Queen to d3, bishop b6, and bishop b1. Of course, this bishop is more active on this diagonal. Sorry. But b3 is of course covered by the knight. So bishop to b1, and king f8 was played, getting out of the light squares because the bishop is going to a2 probably. Bishop a2 was played, and bishop to c7. Now let's look at this position. Exchanging this knight off, well, would make sense only in one for one reason. But the white pieces are really active here. This bishop is nice, covering the light squares in the center. The queen is centralized, and I think this queen has more active prospects than this queen. And this knight is, I think, the worst black piece. If the knight was on another square in the center, I don't know, behind the pawns here, then it would be nicer. Yeah, the knight on f6 I think would be good, covering, I have a bad mouse, sorry, covering the central squares, maybe pushing the pawn, but on on the edge of the board, which was Carlsen's little trick in the opening, provoking it, getting there, really gives White a little advantage here. Queen to b1 was played, and this is what I meant with what the White queen has more active prospects than the Black queen. Of course, there are no penetration squares here, but this is a very good move because you let your opponent make a mistake and you improve the position of your pieces move by move. Sokolov found nothing better than moving his king, and after queen to b4, now you see which queen is more active. Well, this looks uncomfortable for Black here. If bishop to d7, bishop b1, and bishop back to c8, bishop d3, and well, this would be a variation where it would be more difficult maybe for White to play. And if you would think knight to c4 looks good to attack the pawn on c6, well, now Black can get a drawish opposite colored bishop ending with taking on f5, and it's Zwischenzug here attacking the c7 bishop to keep the bishops on the same color. If that bishop drops back and this bishop is taken, then I think White would be winning, because this pawn would fall quickly probably, and then you have a passed pawn and bishops on the same color that and the same queening color as the bishop here. So bishop takes e4 would be a nice move here, and if takes and dropping back takes his pawn, takes, and takes, queen a8. Well, after king e7, this should be a draw. This should be a draw, really. So Sokolov really helped Carlsen after he played d5, but it's understandable. You want to exchange pawns in the center to activate your bishop pair. This is really your trump. Bishop b1 was played, e takes d, c takes d, and now you see all the pawns are exchanged, and this activated only Black's pieces. Well, bishop to e6 by Sokolov, and queen to c5 by Carlsen. And Sokolov thought king to d7 might really hold everything together, but d5 is of course the forcing continuation here. And after exchanging the pawns, now see how the Black king looks in opposition to the White king. After several exchanges and check, king c8. Well, it's not easy in this position. King c8 was played. What if king e8? Well, I think bishop d3 is strong now. And well, the bishop is really watching over this square, and if the knight ever moves, bishop c4 is possible, and the knight cannot move this way because the bishop is watching that pawn. If queen to c6, trying to exchange, well, the queen drops back. It could be exchanged as well. Knight to b3, and now we could even check here, and this pawn is lost. So king e7 is no good as well. So Sokolov tried king c8, and now knight to e3. Well, the engines don't like this move at first sight, but it's absolutely strong and a very good move. The engines think that taking this pawn on a4 is good for black, but see how the black king is really driven here from a to b, and well, this was a try for black to play queen to c6. This is not the game continuation here. And then queen h8 would attack the pawn, and if you would think that black is able to attack the defender of the knight, well, then you're wrong. Queen to g7, check, and now again check, check, and again check. Now if the king moves to e8, it's clearly mate. If the king moved to c8, the queen is lost with check, discovered check, and king to d7 is losing, of course, so the same idea. So queen to c6 doesn't work. Sokolov tried bishop to d8, and now this vicious check here on f5. King e8, hoping to hold everything together, and queen to c6 really was the move here. You see, you have opposite side bishops, and that means that attack and initiative is the key, because on the light squares black cannot defend, and this is as if a white would attack with a piece up. Well, in this position Sokolov resigned. Let's see why he resigned. If he would have tried knight to c6, then of course checking, king f8, and this piece is taken. Of course, well, if another move would have been played like this, of course the queen is lost, and the queen, where should it go really? If let's just see this. Takes, takes, takes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was too quick here. Check. Knight f6 was the move. Knight f6 was the move in this position, and the queen is lost. So this is why the queen cannot defend as well. Knight to c6 doesn't work as well, as we saw. Well, no, we didn't see it yet. Bishop would take this. Queen a5, and see the queen is not able to defend. King g7 and knight f4, and now the queen still cannot defend. If queen to g5, then knight e6 is winning the queen. The pawn is pinned here. If bishop f6, Then again check, bishop e4 check, takes, threatening mate on these two squares. If in this position queen c7 trying to exchange, again knight to e6 is winning the queen, and h4 trying to open with check and get the queen into the game. Bishop e5 takes, and the queen tries maybe to check again, then this pawn falls, and after a calm move like bishop e4, again black cannot defend both of the mating squares. So one last move here. Yeah, okay, we saw every variation here, and this is clear. After queen to c8, the light squares are decisive for black, and this is why Sokolov resigned this game. So the points after this round are as follows. Magnus Carlsen leads the tournament with 4.5 points out of 6. He had 3 draws. He didn't lose one game. Anand and Kayakin share the second place with 4 points out of 6. Aronian, Hari Krishna and Nakamura share third place with well, if you just see the points, they share the third place with 3.5 points out of 6. And it's a clear fact to me that Magnus Carlsen is the favorite to win this tournament now, leading with the points, and really sometimes surprising his opponents with interesting and different ways of play in the opening. So we really waiting to see how the next game will proceed. I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe and comment, and thumbs up for the video if you liked it. Share your thoughts and keep it up with the clicks, and I'll be back next round.